Around the world, many countries work hard, produce valuable resources, and trade with the global market, yet they remain poor, while others grow rich buying and selling the same goods. This creates a quiet question that most people never stop to ask. Why do poor countries sell their goods cheaply, while rich countries buy those goods cheaply, process them, and then sell them back at high prices? This pattern is not accidental. It is not mainly about intelligence, laziness, or effort. It is about how global trade systems work, who controls value, and where power sits in the chain. Every modern economy depends on trade. Countries sell what they have and buy what they need. In theory, this exchange should benefit everyone. If one country has oil, another has factories, another has technology, trade should create balance. But in reality, the global market does not reward all goods equally. Some products create long-term wealth. Others only create short-term income. Poor countries are often locked into selling goods that generate the least power, while buying goods that carry the highest value. Most poor countries export raw materials. These are goods taken directly from the ground or nature with little processing. Oil, cocoa, coffee, cotton, copper, gold, timber, lithium, and many agricultural products fall into this category. These goods are valuable, but they are sold in their simplest form. The moment a raw material leaves the country, the real value building process begins elsewhere. That is where refinement, manufacturing, branding, technology, and distribution happen. And that is where profits multiply. Take cocoa as an example. Countries in West Africa produce more than half of the world's cocoa. Farmers work long hours. Land is used. Labor is intensive. Yet most cocoa-producing countries earn only a small fraction of the final value of chocolate sold globally. The chocolate bars are designed, processed, packaged, marketed, and sold in rich countries. The highest profits are not made where the cocoa grows, but where it is transformed into a finished product. This same pattern appears again and again. Oil-producing countries export crude oil, but import refined fuel at higher prices. Cotton-producing countries export raw cotton, but import finished clothes. Mineral-rich countries export ores, but import electronics, machines, and vehicles. The work that creates lasting wealth is not extraction. It is transformation. This is where the problem begins. Poor countries are positioned at the lowest level of the value chain. They do the hardest physical work but receive the smallest share of profit. Rich countries sit higher in the chain. They control technology, factories, logistics, finance, branding, and markets. They do less physical labor but earn more from each unit of trade. Prices in global markets are not decided by fairness. They are decided by power, supply chains, and negotiation strength. Raw materials are often sold in highly competitive markets. Many countries sell the same product, so buyers have the advantage. If one country demands a higher price, buyers can turn to another. This keeps prices low. Finished products face less competition. A branded phone, car, or medical device cannot easily be replaced. This allows sellers to charge higher prices. Another important factor is price volatility. Raw materials have unstable prices. Their value rises and falls based on global demand, politics, weather, and speculation. A country that depends on exporting raw materials cannot plan long-term development because its income is unpredictable. Manufactured goods, on the other hand, have more stable pricing and higher margins. This stability allows rich countries to plan, invest, and grow steadily. Poor countries also import expensive goods because modern life requires them. Machinery, technology, medicine, vehicles, energy equipment, and digital tools are essential for development. These products are complex and protected by patents, expertise, and capital. Poor countries must buy them, often with foreign currency. This creates a constant trade imbalance. Money flows out faster than it flows in. To pay for imports, poor countries must export even more raw materials. This deepens dependency. The more they sell, the more prices fall. The more they buy, the more expensive it becomes. This is not a moral failure. It is a structural trap. Currency plays a silent role in this system. Most global trade is done in powerful foreign currencies. When poor countries sell their goods, they often earn in currencies they do not control. When their local currency weakens, imports become even more expensive. Debt payments rise. Inflation increases. Citizens suffer, even though the country is producing valuable resources. Industrialization could change this situation, but it is not easy. Building factories requires capital, technology, skilled workers, stable electricity, transport systems, and access to markets. Many poor countries lack these conditions, not because they do not want them, but because building them takes time and protection. Historically, countries that industrialized successfully did not open their markets immediately. They protected young industries, controlled imports, invested heavily in education, and built strong institutions before competing globally. Today, many poor countries face pressure to open their markets early. They are encouraged to remove tariffs, reduce government support, and allow foreign competition. While this can lower prices for consumers, it often destroys local industries before they can mature. Small factories cannot compete with global corporations that have decades of experience, advanced technology, and massive capital. Once local industries collapse, the country becomes even more dependent on imports. Foreign companies also play a role. They invest in extraction industries because they are profitable and low risk. Mining, oil, and agriculture are easier to control than manufacturing. Profits are often repatriated abroad. Local economies receive wages and taxes, but not ownership, technology transfer, or long-term capacity. The country gains income but not independence. Education systems matter too. Many poor countries focus education on administration, theory, or survival skills, not industrial skills, engineering, or innovation. This is changing in some places, but slowly. Without a skilled workforce, industrial growth is limited. Without industry, export structure does not change. Infrastructure is another barrier. Roads, ports, power supply, and digital networks are expensive. Without them, processing goods locally costs more than exporting raw materials. Global markets reward efficiency, not fairness. Countries without infrastructure are pushed to remain suppliers, not producers. It is important to understand that this system did not appear overnight. It developed over centuries. Trade routes, financial institutions, legal frameworks, and corporate networks were built gradually. Countries that joined late entered a system already in motion. Changing position within that system requires deliberate choices, patience, and sometimes resistance. Some countries managed to change their position. They invested in local processing. They controlled key resources. They built export industries step by step. They accepted short-term difficulty for long-term gain. These countries did not escape poverty by selling more raw materials. They escaped by changing what they sold. Others tried and failed. Corruption, poor planning, political instability, and external pressure weakened their efforts. When institutions are fragile, long-term strategy becomes difficult. Leaders focus on survival, not transformation. This is why the story is not simply about history or blame. It is about systems that reward certain roles and punish others. It is about where value is created and who controls that process. Selling cheap and buying expensive is not a mistake. It is a position within a global structure. Understanding this changes how we see development. It explains why aid alone does not solve poverty. It explains why growth numbers do not always improve lives. It explains why resource-rich countries can remain poor. And it explains why economic freedom requires more than political independence. The future is not fixed. Technology is changing production. Digital tools reduce some barriers. Regional trade can build stronger markets. Education and planning can shift direction. But change is slow, and systems resist disruption. When we ask why poor countries sell cheap and buy expensive, we are really asking how the world organizes value. Once we understand that, we stop blaming people and start examining structures. And only by understanding structures can real change begin. If this documentary helped you see the world differently, subscribe to WorldShape TV. More honest explanations are coming. Stories about money, power, systems, and why the past still shapes the present. Because the world makes more sense when we understand how it really works. Thanks for watching.